Double trouble. Caitlin Clark suffers double blow after injured star watches Indiana Fever get destroyed in WNBA playoffs. The Fever are now in a do-or-die playoff game on Tuesday. Caitlin Clark suffered not one, but two brutal losses on Sunday. The injured Indiana Fever superstar watched her WNBA team lose sensationally in the playoffs, but another team she supports was defeated as well. Clark attended Game 1 of the WNBA playoffs between the Fever and the Atlanta Dream on Sunday. Unfortunately for her, the two-time All-Star witnessed her squad lose the series opener, 80-68. The defeat means the Fever's next loss will result in the team's season concluding. That wasn't the only loss Clark experienced on Sunday. The Kansas City Chiefs fanatic saw her favorite NFL team lose to the Philadelphia Eagles, 20-17. It was a rematch of last year's Super Bowl 59 in which the Eagles also won. Late in the game, Clark sent a message to her Chiefs on social media. "Feeling some Chiefs magic to finish the game here, come on," she wrote on X. As for Clark's Fever, they will return home ahead of Game 2 on Tuesday. They will host the Dream at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. Clark suffered a season-ending groin injury back in July. She saw teammate Kelsey Mitchell attempt to lead her squad to victory. The All-WNBA first-team guard posted a game-high 27 points in the losing effort. Clark hopes her Fever comes away with a Game 2 win and forces a Game 3. And she'll want her Chiefs to claim their first victory in the 2025 campaign. Kansas City will travel to MetLife Stadium to take on the New York Giants in Week 3. The evening lights in Indianapolis should have been painted in shades of triumph, the kind that beam down from a playoff atmosphere where history feels just a shot away. But instead, Gainbridge Fieldhouse was wrapped in something heavier: silence, resignation, and a gnawing reminder of how cruel sports can be. Caitlin Clark, the Indiana Fever's generational guard and once seemingly unstoppable engine of a Cinderella season, sat in street clothes on the sideline, her face half shielded by a hoodie, her eyes locked on a court that had suddenly become foreign without her touch. It was not just one blow that hit her this September night. It was a double strike. First, the injury that stripped her of the chance to carry her team into the postseason spotlight she had fought tooth and nail to reach. And second, the devastation of watching the Indiana Fever crumble without her, dismantled by an opponent who knew that without Clark, the Fever's firepower barely flickered. This was double trouble, and Caitlin Clark was living it in real time. The first blow: the body betrays the spirit. Caitlin Clark had never been one to sit. From the packed gyms of Iowa where she redefined what women's college basketball could be, to the fever-pitch WNBA arenas she now called home, she built her legend through motion, quick cuts, deep threes, lightning passes. Motion was her identity. So when her body betrayed her late in the regular season, it was more than pain. It was dissonance. The injury, nagging, cruel, and untimely, yanked her out of rhythm, tore her away from the canvas she painted nightly masterpieces upon. Doctors called it a precautionary hold. Trainers said rehab window. Coaches used words like optimism and hope. But Clark knew better. She knew the margins of playoff basketball, where even one compromised step could be the difference between greatness and heartbreak. She also knew her team leaned on her not just for points, but for belief. The first blow wasn't just physical. It was spiritual. Being sidelined while the Fever marched into the postseason was like being written out of the climax of a movie she had starred in from scene one. The second blow: a front-row seat to collapse. The Fever entered the playoffs as underdogs, scrappy, young, but promising. Even without Clark, there was an air of maybe. Maybe Aaliyah Boston would dominate the paint. Maybe Kelsey Mitchell could carry the scoring load. Maybe the Fever could steal momentum at home. But maybe evaporated quickly. From the opening tip, it was clear Indiana was outmatched. Their opponents smelled blood in the water. The offense was stagnant, the defense porous. Turnovers piled up, rebounds slipped away, and runs stacked against them like a cruel avalanche. The Fever weren't just losing. They were being destroyed. And there sat Caitlin Clark, helpless. She shifted in her chair, clapped encouragement, barked advice during timeouts, even tried to stay animated when the scoreboard grew uglier. But the truth gnawed at her. No amount of cheerleading could disguise the absence of her game-changing presence. The Fever weren't just a team missing their star, they were a team missing their compass. For Clark, the second blow was psychological. To sit there, aching but not from injury alone, and witness her teammates drowning without her, was its own torment. The competitor in her wanted to rip off the hoodie, check into the game, and will them forward on one leg if she had to. But reality shackled her. She wasn't cleared. She wasn't herself. She was sidelined. The psychology of watching. For injured athletes, watching can often feel worse than playing hurt. The arena transforms into a theater of nightmares. Every missed rotation screams, "I could have been there." Every wasted possession echoes, "I would have hit that shot." Clark, known for her fiery competitiveness, sat through all of it. Cameras captured her trying to mask frustration, arms crossed tighter as the deficit ballooned, jaw clenched when another turnover sealed the game's fate. Some fans even wondered, was this season a waste without her? Did the Fever rise too quickly, their playoff berth premature without the depth to weather losing their superstar? Or was this merely the growing pains of a young franchise still learning how to stand tall in a league where legends like Aya Wilson and Breanna Stewart still tower? But no one wrestled with those questions more than Caitlin herself. She wasn't just injured. She was watching her dream dissolve in front of her eyes. The Fever without the fire. Statistically, the game was a disaster for Indiana. Their shooting percentage hovered in the 30s. Boston, doubled relentlessly, never found rhythm. Mitchell's shots rimmed out in cruel succession. The bench, usually a source of spark, provided little. What the box score couldn't measure, though, was the absence of confidence. Without Clark's gravity, her ability to draw defenders, stretch defenses with absurd range, and control tempo, the Fever looked ordinary. They looked like a team that stumbled into the playoffs, not one that had fought tooth and nail all summer. Clark's absence was more than physical production. It was psychological warfare. Opponents didn't fear Indiana without her. And that shift was devastating. The narrative twist, from savior to spectator. Sports narratives are cruel. One week, Caitlin Clark was hailed as the WNBA's most transformative rookie, the golden egg of the league, the player who single-handedly spiked television ratings and packed arenas. The next, she was just another injured star in a hoodie, forced into the background while her team collapsed. For someone of her stature, the transition was jarring. Athletes of her caliber are wired for control. They dictate pace, define outcomes, bend storylines. But here she was, powerless. Watching. This was the cruel poetry of her double trouble. First, she lost control of her own body. Then she lost control of her team's fate.